By the time Serafina Chen swallowed the last suppressant pill in the bottle, she had been awake for 23 hours. The tablet caught in her dry throat. She forced it down with cold coffee from a paper cup, then stared at the empty orange container in her hand. The label had been peeled away weeks ago. There was no pharmacy name, no doctor's signature, and no legal record connecting the medication to her identity. That was the point. Registered suppressants were safer, but registration created a permanent biological file. A university could find it. An employer could find it. A wealthy alpha family searching for an unattached omega could find it. Serafina had spent 3 years making certain no one found anything. She dropped the bottle into the rubbish bin behind the catering kitchen and rubbed the aching gland beneath her left ear. The skin was hot and swollen. It had been that way for days, but she could not afford a clinic. She could barely afford the pills. Her phone vibrated in the pocket of her black uniform trousers. A message from the university reminded her that the second tuition installment was due on Monday. A second message came from her landlord. Rent overdue, again. A third appeared from her shift manager. Private delivery, double rate, must leave immediately. Serafina closed her eyes. She had already worked a breakfast event at 6 that morning, attended 2 lectures, completed a laboratory session, and returned for the evening catering shift. Her hands still smelled faintly of disinfectant and onions. She wanted to go home. Home was a narrow studio above a laundromat, where the walls shook whenever the industrial dryers entered their final cycle. Her mattress rested directly on the floor. Her heater worked only when it felt generous. The small refrigerator contained half a carton of eggs and a jar of mustard. Still, it was hers. The lock turned from the inside. No one entered without permission. Serafina. Her manager stood in the doorway, holding a clipboard. He was a nervous beta named Oliver who apologized whenever he gave an order. The client requested the medical dinner package. It was left behind when the main team departed. Where is it going? Oliver looked at the address. The Harrington estate. Serafina's exhaustion disappeared beneath a sudden pulse of alarm. Everyone in the city knew the Harrington name. Alexandra, Madeline, and Charlotte Harrington were identical alpha triplets, heirs to one of the largest shipping and logistics companies in Europe. Their photographs appeared in business magazines, society pages, and whispered stories traded between Omegas after dark. They lived together. They worked together. They rejected every political marriage offered to them. According to rumor, they shared a pack bond so powerful that most Omegas could not remain in the same room without becoming overwhelmed. Some people called them disciplined. Others called them dangerous. Serafina called them irrelevant. Powerful alphas belonged to a world she had spent years avoiding. "I can't," she said. Oliver's face fell. "The roads are getting worse, and no one else has a car. My car is barely a car. It is 4 times the normal delivery rate." Serafina thought of the tuition message. How far? 40 minutes in normal weather. Snow struck the kitchen window in hard, white bursts. Outside, the winter storm had swallowed most of the street. Serafina touched the swollen gland beneath her ear again. The suppressant should begin working within minutes. She had taken the pills from this dealer for almost a year. They tasted more bitter than usual, and the last few doses had done little to reduce the fever under her skin. Still, she had no choice. She needed the money. "I'll do it." Oliver gave her the estate instructions, helped load the insulated boxes into her old Honda, and told her to call when she arrived. The car started on the 3rd attempt. The heater released a weak stream of air that smelled like dust. Serafina pulled her thin coat tighter and drove into the storm. The city disappeared behind her. Streetlights became rare, then vanished completely. Snow gathered on the windscreen faster than the wipers could clear it. The tires slipped whenever the road curved. Her phone battery fell to 12%. The suppressant did not begin working. Instead, heat spread slowly through her bloodstream. Serafina lowered the window, letting frozen air strike her face. She could not enter an alpha estate smelling like an unsuppressed Omega. She could not let anyone discover what she was. At 22, Serafina had already learned that society praised Omegas publicly and controlled them privately. Universities offered support programs that quietly directed them away from demanding careers. Employers called biological leave a protection, then refused to promote anyone who used it. Wealthy families were worse. They spoke of compatibility, legacy, protection, and duty. All beautiful words for ownership. Serafina had not survived 3 years of chemical suppression to become someone's carefully managed asset. She pressed harder on the accelerator. The Honda protested. A warning light appeared on the dashboard. "Not tonight," she whispered. The engine coughed. The Harrington estate gates emerged from the snow ahead, tall and black between stone pillars. Cameras turned toward her vehicle. Before Serafina could reach the intercom, the gates opened. She followed a long private drive through dark trees. The mansion appeared gradually through the storm. It was not a house. It was a fortress built from pale stone, glass, and warm golden light. One wing disappeared into the forest. Another faced a frozen lake. The circular driveway could have held every car Serafina had ever seen. She parked near the service entrance. The moment she turned off the engine, the car died completely. Serafina tried the ignition again. Nothing. Her phone battery showed 6%. She stared at the mansion. "Deliver the food," she told herself. "Call for help, leave." She carried the first insulated box to the door. An older beta woman opened it before Serafina knocked. "You must be from Hartwell Catering." "Yes." "Come inside before you freeze." Warmth closed around Serafina the moment she crossed the threshold. The housekeeper introduced herself as Mrs. Bell and directed 2 staff members to collect the remaining boxes. "The roads have closed behind you," Mrs. Bell said. "There was an accident near the lower bridge. I need to call a tow service. None will come until morning. I can wait in my car." "You will do no such thing." Serafina stiffened. Mrs. Bell's expression softened. "That was concern, not an order. The guest wing is empty. You may rest there until the weather improves." "I shouldn't stay." "Miss, your lips are blue." Serafina looked toward the door. Snow had already covered her footprints. Her phone died in her hand. Mrs. Bell handed her a small brass key. "Take the west staircase, 2nd corridor. The guest rooms are through the blue door. Choose any room that is open." Serafina accepted the key. "Are the Harringtons home?" "No, their flight was delayed. They are expected after midnight." Relief loosened something inside her. She would be gone before they arrived. Or she would remain hidden in the guest wing. Either way, she would not meet them. Serafina climbed the west staircase, carrying her bag and wet coat. The mansion was unnaturally quiet. Thick carpets absorbed every step. Paintings watched her from dark walls. The air carried traces of polished wood, winter flowers, and something deeper. Alpha scent. 3 distinct currents moved through the house. Dark amber, controlled and smooth. Cedar, strong enough to feel like a hand against her spine. Fresh mint, cool and unexpectedly gentle. Serafina's Omega instincts lifted their head. She stopped walking. "No." The words sounded weak in the empty corridor. The suppressant should have flattened every biological response. Instead, her pulse quickened. She reached the 2nd corridor, but fever blurred the colors around her. There were 2 doors near the end. One appeared gray, the other might have been blue. Serafina chose the nearer one. The brass key was unnecessary. The door opened beneath her hand. Warm air touched her face. She stepped inside and forgot the storm. The room was circular, windowless, and softly lit by lamps hidden behind carved wooden panels. A vast low bed occupied the center, surrounded by layered blankets, pillows, and folded clothing. No sharp furniture. No cold surfaces. No empty space. Everything curved inward toward the center. A nest. Seraphina should have left immediately. An alpha pack's nest was not an ordinary bedroom. It was the most private territory they possessed. Entering without permission was an invasion. Sleeping there was unthinkable. She backed toward the door. Then the scent reached her fully. Amber. Cedar. Mint. The three currents wrapped around her exhausted body, and every muscle she had held tense for years began to loosen. Her rational mind recognized danger. Her body recognized safety. Seraphina gripped the door handle. This is not the guest room. She turned it. The corridor beyond seemed colder than before. A wave of dizziness forced her against the frame. She needed to sit for 1 minute. Only 1 minute. She crossed the room and touched the edge of a blanket. The fabric was warmer than her apartment after hours of heating. She sat. The pressure beneath her skin eased. Seraphina pulled a folded robe closer, telling herself it was only for warmth. Dark amber clung to the collar. Beneath it rested traces of cedar and mint, woven together so closely that her Omega instincts released a quiet sound of relief. She pressed her lips together. No. Her hands began to shake. She had spent 3 years sleeping lightly. 3 years listening for footsteps outside her door. 3 years waking every few hours to check whether her scent had changed. Inside the nest, her body believed someone else was keeping watch. She lay down for only a moment. Then she pulled one blanket across her legs. Then another around her shoulders. The robe remained against her chest. Her fever rose. The final chemical barrier, created by the suppressant, broke apart. Rain and white jasmine filled the room. Seraphina did not notice. She was already asleep. Alexandra Harrington detected the Omega before she entered the mansion. She stepped out of the vehicle and stopped beneath the covered entrance. Madeline nearly collided with her. What is it? Alexandra lifted her head. The storm wind carried snow, cold stone, and the faintest trace of something impossible. Rain. Jasmine. Omega. Charlotte emerged from the other side of the vehicle. Her usual smile disappeared. You smell it too. Madeline's eyes darkened. There is an Omega in the house. Mrs. Bell met them inside. She explained the catering delivery, the broken vehicle, and the exhausted student she had sent toward the guest wing. Alexandra listened without interrupting. Which room? I gave her the west guest key. Madeline was already moving. The three sisters crossed the entrance hall together. Their shared pack bond tightened with every step. The scent did not come from the guest wing. It came from the private corridor. From the locked section of the house, no employee entered without permission. From their nest, Madeline reached the door first. Her hand closed around the handle. Alexandra caught her wrist. Slowly. If she is injured. We do not frighten her. Madeline's jaw tightened, but she nodded. Charlotte stood on Alexandra's other side, her mint scent already softening the air. Alexandra opened the door. All three sisters stopped breathing. A young woman slept in the center of their nest. She was small beneath the blankets, with black hair spread across one pillow and one hand curled around Alexandra's robe. Madeline's gray sweater had been pulled beneath her head. Charlotte's scarf rested near her cheek. Their scents covered her. Her scent covered everything. Rain and jasmine moved through the nest in warm waves, entering the triplets, shared bond, and touching a place that had been empty since birth. Alexandra felt Madeline's aggression become silent. Charlotte pressed one hand over her heart. The pack bond shifted. For years, specialists had warned them that their connection was incomplete. 3 dominant alphas born within minutes of one another had developed a shared biological system so intense that it became unstable under stress. Alexandra carried the control. Madeline carried the force. Charlotte carried the emotional balance. But no sister could anchor all 3 permanently. Political families had sent compatible Omegas. Doctors had presented genetic profiles. Nothing had worked. Until now. The sleeping stranger breathed in. All 3 alphas breathed with her. Madeline took 1 step forward. Alexandra blocked her. No touching. She is in our nest. She is unconscious. Madeline's hands curled. I want to know if she is hurt. Charlotte moved toward the opposite side of the bed and crouched several feet away. We can stay near her without touching. The woman shivered. Madeline's cedar scent surged instinctively. The shivering stopped. Alexandra felt the response through the bond. The stranger's body had recognized them. That did not mean she had chosen them. Mrs. Bell said her car failed, Alexandra said quietly. The roads are closed. We wait until she wakes. Madeline looked at the clothes wrapped around the Omega. She chose the center. She was exhausted, Alexandra replied. Charlotte sat on the floor beside the bed. Both things may be true. The sisters remained in the room. They did not climb into the bed. They did not touch the sleeping woman. They positioned themselves around the outer edge of the nest and allowed their scents to form a protective circle. Hours passed. The storm struck the mansion. The Omega slept through all of it. Seraphina woke at sunrise with 3 alpha scents surrounding her. For 1 peaceful second, she did not remember where she was. Then she opened her eyes. A woman sat in a chair near the foot of the bed, dressed in black trousers and a white shirt. Her dark hair was tied back. Her expression was calm, severe, and instantly recognizable. Alexandra Harrington. To Seraphina's left, another woman leaned against the wall with her arms folded. She had the same face, but her posture was broader, more physical. Madeline. Near the door stood the 3rd sister, holding a tray of tea. Charlotte. Seraphina shot upright. The room spun. Stay back. All 3 moved away immediately. Charlotte placed the tray on a table and raised her hands. No one is coming closer. Seraphina looked down. She was wearing her own clothes, but she had wrapped herself in the sisters' blankets and gathered their clothing around her like an animal building shelter. Humiliation burned through her. Where am I? Alexandra answered. In our nest. Seraphina's heart slammed against her ribs. She threw the blanket aside and climbed from the bed. Her knees nearly failed. Madeline stepped forward instinctively, then stopped before touching her. You are unsteady. I'm leaving. The lower road is closed, Alexandra said. I'll walk. In this storm, Madeline asked. Yes. Charlotte opened the nest door fully. You are not trapped. The corridor is clear. Seraphina stared at her. Charlotte's voice remained gentle. You can leave this room now. You can leave the estate when the road opens. No one will stop you. Seraphina moved toward the door. The farther she went from the center of the nest, the worse the fever became. Pain twisted beneath her ribs. She caught the wall. Madeline growled softly, not at Seraphina, but at whatever was hurting her. Alexandra's gaze sharpened. What suppressants are you using? That is none of your business. You smell chemically unstable. Seraphina's fear became anger. You do not get to examine me because I entered the wrong room. You are right. Alexandra's immediate agreement disarmed her. The pack leader lowered her voice. But you may be experiencing a medical emergency. We can bring a neutral physician. You choose whether she enters. I don't need a doctor. Another cramp bent Seraphina forward. Charlotte approached by only 1 step. May I place the tea on the floor near you? Seraphina nodded. Charlotte set down the cup and retreated. Serafina drank because her throat felt burned. The warmth helped for less than a minute. Then her scent surged. Rain and jasmine flooded the corridor. All three alphas froze. Madeline turned her face away, every muscle in her body locked with restraint. Alexandra stepped back. Charlotte opened a window at the far end of the room. Their reaction frightened Serafina more than possession would have. They wanted her. Every instinct in the room admitted it. But none of them moved closer. "What is happening to me?" she whispered. Alexandra answered carefully. "Your suppressants may be failing." Serafina touched the swollen gland beneath her ear. "No. Abrupt suppressant failure can trigger rebound heat." "No." Her next heat was not due for months. The pills prevented it. The pills had always prevented it. Except the last doses had tasted different. The fever had started days ago. Alexandra took out her phone. "There is an Omega physician 20 minutes away by emergency vehicle." "No family doctor." "She does not work for us. She runs an independent clinic." "My identity remains private." "Yes." "No registration." "Yes." "You do not enter the examination room." Alexandra nodded. "You decide who enters." Serafina looked at the open door. She could still leave. The triplets had made no attempt to close it. "Call her." Dr. Naomi Patel arrived before the snowplow. She was a middle-aged Omega with silver beginning at her temples and an expression that suggested billionaires did not impress her. She ordered the triplets out of the guest room Serafina had chosen for the examination. All three obeyed. Dr. Patel examined the inflamed scent glands, checked Serafina's heart rate, and took blood samples. Then she placed one of the remaining suppressant tablets into a portable testing device. The result appeared within minutes. "This is not a standard suppressant," she said. Serafina pulled the blanket tighter. "I know it's not legal. That is not the main problem." Dr. Patel turned the screen toward her. "The active suppressant is less than half the expected dose. The rest contains a compound designed to weaken gland regulation over time." Serafina stared at the numbers. "Why would someone do that?" "To create dependency. You need more tablets while becoming progressively less stable." "I bought them from the same person for a year." "Do you have his contact information?" "Only a messaging account." Dr. Patel's expression hardened. "There have been reports of unregistered Omegas receiving contaminated medication. Some disappeared after developing severe heats." Cold fear cut through Serafina's fever. "Disappeared where?" "No one knows." A knock sounded. Alexandra's voice came through the closed door. "Doctor, security has arrived at the front gate." Serafina stiffened. "What security?" "Your university campus office," Alexandra answered. "They say they received an anonymous report that you were being detained here." Dr. Patel and Serafina exchanged a look. No one at the university knew where Serafina had gone except the catering office. No one should have known she was an Omega. The contaminated pills. The delivery assignment. The anonymous report. Pieces began moving together. Someone expected her body to fail at the Harrington estate. Someone wanted authorities to find an unstable Omega inside the private nest of 3 famously possessive alphas. The triplets were being framed, and Serafina had been delivered as the evidence. She opened the door. Alexandra, Madeline, and Charlotte stood on the other side, each several steps away. "You didn't arrange my delivery?" Serafina asked. Madeline's face darkened. "No." "Did you damage my car?" "No," Alexandra said. "Did you know I was coming?" "Not until Mrs. Bell told us." Serafina studied their expressions. Their scents carried anger, alarm, and something deeply protective. No satisfaction. No guilt. Dr. Patel stepped into the corridor. Someone contaminated her medication. If campus security removes her without medical supervision, the stress could worsen the rebound. Alexandra looked at Serafina. What do you want us to do? Serafina almost laughed. 3 billionaire alphas stood inside their own mansion, asking a broke student for instructions. Let me speak to security. We can bring them here, Charlotte said. No, neutral room. Alexandra nodded. The library has 2 exits and camera coverage. The doors remain open. The security officers entered the library 15 minutes later. Serafina sat beside Dr. Patel. The triplets remained across the room. One officer explained that the university had received an audio message claiming Serafina had been taken to the estate against her will after a catering shift. Are you being detained? He asked. No. Are you free to leave? Serafina looked toward the windows filled with snow. When the road opens, yes. Have the Harrington sisters threatened you? No. Did they know you were an Omega before last night? No. Alexandra spoke only after Serafina gave permission. She provided security footage showing Serafina arriving alone, Mrs. Bell directing her upstairs, and the triplets returning hours later. The footage also showed a catering employee accessing the delivery schedule shortly before Serafina was assigned. The account belonged to someone who had resigned that morning. Serafina's fear sharpened into focus. This was no accident. Someone had studied her. Someone knew about the pills. Someone knew where she worked, where she studied, and what shift she would accept for extra money. The security officers agreed to open an investigation. Before leaving, one of them looked at Serafina. Do you have somewhere safe to stay? She glanced toward the triplets. The estate was warm. Protected. Full of alpha, sent her body responded to with terrifying trust. That did not automatically make it safe. Safety without choice was still a cage. I will stay temporarily, she said, under conditions. Alexandra sat opposite her at the library table. Tell me the conditions. I get independent legal counsel. Agreed. My medical records remain private. Agreed. My tuition is not paid unless I accept it without obligation. Agreed. I keep my job if I want it. Charlotte nodded. Yes. No one enters my room without permission. Agreed, Alexandra said. No one touches me without asking. Madeline's jaw tightened, but her answer came clearly. Agreed. No mark, no bond, no permanent decision during heat. All 3 sisters became very still. The shared bond between them seemed to pull tight. Alexandra answered first. Agreed. I keep my own bank account. Yes. When the road opens, I can leave. Madeline looked at her for a long moment. I want to protect you. That does not mean you control me. I know, Madeline's voice was rough. I'm learning the difference. Serafina turned toward Charlotte. The gentlest sister offered a small smile. You can leave whenever you want, but eat first. Revolutions are difficult on an empty stomach. Against every reasonable instinct, Serafina almost smiled back. The next 3 days changed the shape of her life. The storm trapped everyone inside the estate, but the triplets kept their promises. Serafina received a bedroom on the opposite side of the guest wing. The lock worked only from inside. A new phone sat unopened on the desk, purchased without tracking software and registered in the name of her independent lawyer. Dr. Patel visited twice each day. The rebound heat came in waves, but medication and controlled exposure to the triplets' scents prevented the worst symptoms. No one suggested mating. No one called bonding medically necessary. When Serafina needed alpha pheromones, one sister sat outside her closed door. Charlotte usually volunteered first. She read novels aloud from the corridor, and made terrible jokes until Serafina's breathing steadied. Madeline repaired the Honda in the heated garage herself. She replaced the battery, fixed the fuel line, and ordered new tires after discovering 2 were nearly smooth. When Serafina protested the expense, Madeline handed her the invoices. "Loan," she said. "Repay it in whatever amount you choose." "What if I choose nothing?" "Then I learn an expensive lesson about lending." Alexandra contacted the university through Serafina's lawyer. She arranged deadline extensions without revealing the medical details or Omega status. When the dean hinted that Serafina might need to reconsider medical school, Alexandra's voice became colder than the storm. No one uses her future as leverage. Serafina overheard the call from the hallway. For the first time, someone with power had used it to protect her choices rather than replace them. That frightened her almost as much as it comforted her. The investigation expanded. The messaging account used by Serafina's dealer connected to dozens of unregistered Omegas. Medication batches had been altered deliberately. When victims became unstable, anonymous reports directed wealthy families or private clinics toward them. Some victims were pressured into restrictive pack contracts. Others vanished. Serafina asked to see the recovered records. Alexandra hesitated. "Why?" "Because the batch codes are medical." So your investigators are reading them like shipping numbers. I know what the chemical abbreviations mean." Madeline leaned against the desk. "It may be dangerous." "I am already involved." Charlotte looked at her sisters. "She is right." Alexandra turned the files towards Serafina. Within an hour, Serafina identified a pattern. The contaminated pills were not random. Different compounds targeted different biological responses. Some triggered heats, others created scent gland pain. A third group weakened memory and judgment. The batches were assigned according to the buyer's profile. Age, income, education, known relatives, likelihood of being believed. Serafina found her own file near the bottom. Unregistered Omega, medical student, financial distress, no family support, high resistance to authority, recommended placement, dominant multi-alpha household. Her hands became cold. They had not simply targeted her. They had selected the Harrington triplets as the perfect captors. If the sisters claimed her, the network received payment. If they refused, the anonymous report created a public scandal. Either outcome increased pressure on Serafina while destroying the triplets' credibility. Alexandra read the file over her shoulder. Dark amber filled the room. Someone unfamiliar with her might have called it calm. Serafina now knew it was rage under absolute control. "We will find every person involved," Alexandra said. "We," Serafina replied. Alexandra looked at her. "You are not required to participate." "I know." "Then why?" "Because I understand the medical evidence, and because there are other women in these records." Madeline stepped closer, stopping outside Serafina's reach. "What do you need?" For the next week, Serafina worked with investigators from the estate library. She traced medication batch numbers through false clinics. She compared symptoms reported in missing person cases. She found one hospital record describing an Omega admitted with the same gland inflammation she had experienced. That woman, Leela Morgan, had disappeared after discharge. A delivery company, owned by a Harrington competitor, had collected her. Alexandra used corporate records to trace the vehicle. Madeline joined law enforcement during the search. Charlotte remained with Serafina, coordinating information and refusing to let her survive on coffee. They found Leela alive in a private recovery residence with 4 other Omegas. The residents had signed pack agreements while drugged and unstable. The documents led directly to the trafficking network. Arrests began the next morning. Serafina's dealer was caught at an airport. The catering employee who leaked her assignment confessed within hours. The immediate danger ended. The deeper conflict arrived from inside the Harrington family. Alexandra's grandmother summoned the triplets to a private council meeting. Serafina was not invited. She received a formal document instead. The Harrington family offered to recognize her as the triplets' biological anchor. In exchange, she would move permanently to the estate, register her Omega status, transfer medical authority to a family physician, and agree to a public bonding schedule. Her education would be funded. Her debts would disappear. Her future children would inherit protected status. At the bottom of the document, she was described as a reproductive and stabilizing asset. Serafina read the phrase 3 times. Then she packed her bag. The roads were open. Her car waited outside, repaired and fueled. Her own apartment still existed. She had promised herself she would leave the moment protection became ownership. A knock sounded at her door. "Who is it?" "Alexandra." "Come in." Alexandra entered alone. Her face looked carved from stone. "You received the proposal." "Yes. It was sent without our approval. But it represents your family." "It does not represent us." Serafina zipped the bag. "I'm leaving." Alexandra looked at it, then back at her. "The car is ready." Serafina had expected resistance. The absence of it hurt unexpectedly. "You agree. You said you would leave when you chose. And the anchor bond. It changes nothing about your freedom. What if leaving makes your pack unstable? Then we manage it. What if I never return?" Alexandra's control cracked. "Only slightly. Then we live with the consequence." Serafina looked away. The answer she had demanded was the answer she did not want to hear. Alexandra placed a folder on the desk. "These are copies of the family proposal, our rejection, and the legal protections transferring every decision regarding your identity to you. You rejected it already. Before coming here. What did it cost?" Alexandra was silent. Serafina opened the folder. The triplets had surrendered their positions in the Harrington Family Trust. They had given up inheritance rights worth billions. They had removed 3 family representatives from the corporate board, risking control of the company. They had issued a statement declaring that no Omega connected to their household would ever be registered as an asset. Serafina lifted her eyes. "You gave up your inheritance." Alexandra's voice remained quiet. "It was never worth more than your freedom." Madeline and Charlotte waited downstairs. Neither attempted to stop her. Madeline carried Serafina's bag to the car, only after asking permission. Charlotte gave her enough food for the drive. Alexandra handed her the keys. Serafina stood beside the repaired Honda. The triplets remained on the mansion steps. Snow had begun falling again, softer this time. "You could ask me to stay," Serafina said. Alexandra's expression tightened. "I could. But you won't." "No." "Why?" "Because I want your answer to belong to you." Serafina entered the car. She drove away. No vehicle followed. No security team appeared behind her. No message demanded her return. For the first time since entering the Harrington estate, Serafina understood the true shape of her choice. She was free. The freedom felt terrible. Her apartment seemed smaller than she remembered. The laundromat shook the floor. The heater failed during the first night. She returned to lectures, work, and her careful routines. She also returned to silence. Charlotte sent one message each morning. "Have you eaten?" Madeline sent photographs of the final repairs she had made to the car. Alexandra sent nothing unless Serafina contacted her first. Their restraint was unbearable. Serafina had spent years believing independence meant needing no one. But independence was not the absence of love. It was the ability to choose love without fear. She missed Alexandra's precise questions. She missed Madeline's blunt concern. She missed Charlotte talking through closed doors. She missed the scent of amber, cedar, and mint gathering around her without demanding anything in return. Most of all, she missed the nest. Not because it was luxurious. Because it was the first place her body had slept without expecting danger. 3 weeks after leaving, Serafina completed her final medical examination of the term. She walked out of the university beneath a clear winter sky and checked her results online. She had passed. Not barely. She had earned one of the highest scores in the class. Her first impulse was to call the Triplets. That told her everything. Another storm reached the city that evening. Snow covered the roads. Serafina packed one small bag, placed her university books inside, and drove toward the Harrington estate. The gates opened when the cameras recognized her repaired car. No one met her outside. She entered through the service door and found Mrs. Bell in the kitchen. The housekeeper smiled. "They are in the West Wing. Do they know I'm here?" "Not yet." Serafina climbed the familiar staircase. Amber reached her first. Cedar followed. Mint softened both. She stopped outside the nest. The first time, fever and exhaustion had carried her through the wrong door. This time, her body was stable. The conspiracy was defeated. Her legal independence was secure. Her car waited outside. Her apartment remained hers. She could turn around. She placed one hand on the door. Then she opened it. The Triplets were inside. Alexandra sat near the fire reading a report. Madeline repaired a broken wooden box at a side table. Charlotte lay across the edge of the nest with a book balanced above her face. All three looked up. No one moved. Serafina stepped into the room. Charlotte's eyes filled with tears first. Madeline's hands became still. Alexandra stood slowly. "The roads are dangerous," she said. "I know. Is your car all right?" Madeline repaired it. Madeline looked down, as if suddenly fascinated by the wooden box. Serafina placed her bag near the door. Alexandra's gaze moved to it. "Are you staying?" Serafina walked toward the center of the nest. "The first time, my body brought me here." Alexandra's voice became almost a whisper. "And now? Now I'm choosing it." Madeline released a breath that sounded like pain. Charlotte sat up. "May I hug you?" "Yes." Charlotte reached her first, wrapping her arms around Serafina gently enough that she could step away at any moment. Serafina did not step away. Madeline waited. Serafina opened one arm toward her. The strongest sister crossed the distance and held them both, her cedar scent trembling with emotion. Alexandra remained outside the embrace. Always the most controlled. Always the one who waited. Serafina held out her hand. Alexandra took it. The pack bond awakened fully. Not like a chain. Like a door opening inside all four of them. Dark amber carried Alexandra's devotion. Cedar carried Madeline's fierce protection. Mint carried Charlotte's warmth. Rain and jasmine moved through all three, balancing them without disappearing inside them. Serafina remained herself. A student. Future doctor. Omega. Equal. She entered the nest between them. No mark was given that night. No permanent bond was completed. They sat together while Serafina described her examination results, and Charlotte produced a small cake she claimed had been prepared for an unrelated reason. No one believed her. Madeline opened a bottle of sparkling water. Alexandra asked Serafina what she wanted her future to look like. Not what the family required. Not what biology demanded. What she wanted. Serafina looked around the nest. My own medical career. Yes, Alexandra said. Financial independence. Yes. My apartment, until I decide I no longer need it. Yes, a room here that belongs only to me. Charlotte smiled. It already exists. And no one treats me like I am fragile because I'm an Omega. Madeline considered that. I may struggle with that one, then struggle quietly. Madeline's mouth curved. I can try. Seraphina looked at all three sisters. And I want this. The room became still. This, Charlotte asked. All of you, individually, not as a title, not as a biological solution. Alexandra lowered herself beside Seraphina. What does that require from us? Patience. You have it. Honesty. You have it. Choice every time. Alexandra lifted Seraphina's hand and stopped before bringing it to her lips. Seraphina closed the final distance herself. Every time, Alexandra promised. The permanent bond happened months later. Seraphina chose the date after completing another university term. Dr. Patel confirmed that her body had recovered fully from the contaminated suppressants. Her lawyer reviewed every agreement. Her bank account remained separate. Her apartment remained available. The door to her private room at the estate still locked from the inside. Nothing required her to stay. That was why she stayed. The ceremony was private. No reporters. No family council. No announcement describing her as an heir-producing asset. Mrs. Bell placed winter flowers around the nest. Leela Morgan and 2 other rescued Omegas attended as Seraphina's witnesses. Alexandra asked first. Do you choose this pack freely? Yes. Madeline asked second. Do you want our protection without surrendering your authority? Yes. Charlotte asked last. Do you want a home with us, even though Madeline snores and Alexandra schedules breakfast meetings? Madeline objected. Alexandra closed her eyes. Seraphina laughed. Yes. The bond settled through them with warmth rather than force. 1 Omega. 3 alphas. 4 equal voices. The following year, Seraphina began clinical training. She also helped Dr. Patel establish a foundation for unregistered Omegas harmed by illegal suppressants. Harrington Resources funded the clinics, but Seraphina controlled the medical program. Alexandra never interfered. Madeline trained the security teams to protect patients without monitoring them. Charlotte created scholarship partnerships and insisted every meeting include food. The trafficking case led to new protections for biological privacy. The Harrington Company survived without the family trust. It became smaller, less politically connected, and more ethical. The Triplets never regretted the price. Seraphina kept her old Honda for another year. Madeline complained about it every week. When the vehicle finally failed beyond repair, Seraphina chose the replacement herself and paid half the cost. No one argued. Her studio apartment remained empty for 6 months before she finally ended the lease. On the last night, she sat on the mattress and listened to the laundromat shaking the floor beneath her. This room had once represented freedom. Now she understood that freedom did not require loneliness. She returned the key to the landlord. Then she drove home. Another winter sunrise entered the Harrington nest. Seraphina woke first. Her university books rested on the table beside the bed. Her medical identification card lay on top of them. The keys to her own car waited beside the door. Her private room remained across the corridor. Every path out was open. Alexandra slept on one side of the nest, her face softer without its usual control. Madeline rested near the foot, positioned instinctively between the pack and the door. Charlotte had somehow stolen most of the blankets and wrapped one arm around a pillow. Seraphina watched them. The first sunrise had found her frightened inside a stranger's nest, wearing borrowed scents and wondering whether she would be allowed to leave. This sunrise found her protected, but never confined. Loved but never owned. Chosen and still free to choose. Charlotte opened one eye. You're thinking loudly. That is not medically possible. It is emotionally possible. Madeline made a tired sound from beneath a blanket. Both of you should sleep. Alexandra opened her eyes last. Her dark gaze found Serafina immediately. Are you all right? Serafina looked toward the open door. Snow covered the estate outside. The storm had returned. But she was no longer exhausted, hidden, or alone. She moved closer to the center of the nest. I'm home. Alexandra reached for her, then paused. Even after all this time, she waited. Serafina placed Alexandra's hand against her heart. Madeline shifted closer. Charlotte pulled the blankets around all four of them. Outside, the winter wind moved across the mansion and covered every road in white. Inside, the pack settled around its anchor. The wrong room had become the first place Serafina had ever entered by accident and remained in by choice.